Tempe, Arizona, with a special celebrity guest on that show. Columbus, Ohio, Dayton, Ohio, Burbank, California, and Honolulu. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets. It's crazy how much people just outwardly say they want to censor. Here's Kamala Harris saying she wants to censor.
He has lost his privileges and it should be taken down. And the bottom line is that you can't say that you have one rule for Facebook and you have a different rule for Twitter. The same rule has to apply, which is that there has to be a responsibility that is placed on these social media sites to understand their power. They are directly speaking to millions and millions of people without any level of oversight.
Like they're like as if they're in the United States of America and there's a constitution or something. You don't get to speak to people. Anyway,
They met in a group before there was the internet and talked.
Or regulation, and that has to stop.
that
He
has
has
to stop. Here's Tim Walz saying the same shit. Watch this.
I think we need to push back on this. There's no guarantee to free speech on misinformation or hate speech, and especially around our democracy.
Yeah, turns out that's exactly what the fucking First Amendment's there for. Shit that you think is hate speech and think that there's no. Anyway, anybody want to say anything? This is crazy what's going on. So that's the vice president, that's the president, the future president, that's the future vice president saying they're so totally cool with censorship and they don't give a shit about the First Amendment. The First Amendment is, sometimes it's okay, but if I don't like what you're saying, fuck the First Amendment. That's who these people are. That's what you would call a dictator. That's what you would call an authoritarian. That's what you would call a fascist. And they say it right out loud on television. Anybody on?
But Jimmy, they said we have to.
Yeah.
They say we have to. It doesn't matter what we have to do. We just have to do it after they said we have to.
That's it. Go ahead, Kim.
Let's start with them.
Details.
Let's start with the censoring them. I'm with you 100%. Even easy. Even AOC says this. Watch this.
I do think that several members of Congress in some of my discussions have brought up media literacy because that is a part of what happened here. And we're going to have to figure out how we rein in our media environment so that you can't just spew disinformation and misinformation. It's one thing to have differing opinions, but it's another thing entirely to just say things that are false. And so that's something that we're looking in. I do think that...
I love that's something we're looking into. Us at the government, the people who always tell the truth. We're looking into it. She's like a delicate little censorship fawn underneath the waterfall.
No, Jimmy, she's right. I don't like things that are false, just like her voice or her false concern.
They're trying to show that she's having a struggle with this decision to shut all free discourse down, like she's wrestling with it internally.
Well, I like how she says we need media literacy. I don't even think she has literacy. That's
This has been the oldest routine since the church.
yeah.
Yes, we determine what's the truth and what isn't.
Yeah.
If you go against it, you're a liar because you lit on fire.
So she's let's see. I say let's see if she floats.
Yeah.
So she doesn't mean this kind of lying, right? You remember this kind of lying during COVID? Hey, gunshot victims left waiting as horse dewormer overdoses overwhelmed. So, by the way, this was supposed to be in September. They're all wearing winter jackets in Oklahoma in September. So this was obvious bullshit fakery. They were doing this to lie at the behest of Big Pharma. She's not talking about this. She doesn't want to rein in corporate media. She wants to rein in you. She wants to rein in me. She wants to rein in everybody here. She wants to fuck over the First Amendment. That's your lefty progressive AOC. She's not a lefty. She's not a progressive. She's an authoritarian fucking fascist who goes along with the establishment, and she doesn't want you to be able to criticize her. She said, when I criticized her during Forced to Vote, she said I was committing acts of stochastic terrorism. And you know, Barack Obama made it that they could lock people up for me without forever. It's called indefinite detention because he got rid of habeas corpus. All you have to do is say that person's a terrorist, which she called me a terrorist, doing stochastic terrorism, and then they can lock me up forever. So freedom of speech has now been made criminal in the United States, and they have fucking people like AOC going along with it. I've always said this, it's worse to have people like AOC and Bernie Sanders elected to government. Why, Jimmy? Because it gives people the false impression that there's somebody in government who's actually on your side and fucking fighting for you. And what we need to do is get people completely sick of the establishment and have no hope in the government so that then we can come together and overthrow these motherfuckers. That's exactly what we need. Okay, thank you. All right, I'll calm down. And of course, the biggest liars are always the government. And here Matt Orfalea found this out. Matt Orfalea says, exclusive in a newly discovered Zoom recording, the Biden-Harris team reveals how they manipulated voters to think Biden's mental decline was disinformation. They did that. So if you Googled something about Biden's mental state, it would give you a story that said he was totally together. And so here, we're getting started with tonight's webinar. Rob Flaherty. So this is a big guy who worked for the Biden-Harris Disinformation Project to make you think if you thought Biden was demented, that you were crazy. And he tried to get other people censored during COVID. Emails show Flaherty carrying out a counter misinformation program in the White House, pushing Facebook to censor Tucker Carlson for correctly saying the COVID-19 vaccine didn't stop transmission, and Tomi Lahren for her strong my body, my choice stance. So that's what that shows right there. And so they got him in front of a congressional committee, and they were going to ask him, hey, what the fuck is misinformation or disinformation? And was the establishment, was the Biden administration lying when they said these things? Let's listen.
When the Biden administration told Americans that the vaccinated couldn't get the virus, were they guessing or lying?
Congressman, I think first of all, it's important to remember.
Like I said, Congressman. He's going to start every answer with Congressman. That's what.
My role in this discussion.
When the Biden administration told Americans that the vaccinated couldn't get the virus, were they guessing or lying?
Congressman,
And by the way, let's play a drinking game, okay? Every time he says Congressman, we all have to take a shot. And I'm not talking about the experimental kind. Okay, here we go.
When the Biden administration told Americans that the vaccinated couldn't get the virus, were they guessing or lying?
Congressman, I think first of all, it's important to remember my role in this discussion, which is as a communicator on behalf of
Work for the Biden administration or assistant to the president. It's a simple question. When they told the American people that if you get the vaccine, you will not get the virus, was that a guess or was that a lie?
Congressman, we were communicating on behalf of the administration. We were communicating the best information provided by some of the best medical scientists in the world in Atlanta, Bethesda, and beyond. Our role is...
Let me ask you a simple question. Can the people who got the vaccine, could they still get the virus?
Congressman, again, I'm not...
Congressman, I'm just going to keep saying Congressman because I wasn't prepped how to answer these questions. Okay, here we go. Congressman.
Not here as a medical expert.
No, that's just common. Everyone knows that. Of course they can. I'm just asking you a simple question. Well, let me do it this way. What's the definition of misinformation?
Congressman, certainly there's different and varying definitions of mis and disinformation. At the end of the day, the platform...
Tell me the difference. Tell me what misinformation is.
Congressman, these are decisions that the platforms ultimately get to make about how they...
I'm not asking that. I'm a simple question. What's misinformation?
Well, Congressman, I think it's...
Congressman.
He uses Congressman the way a car salesman uses your name. Jimmy, you look like a smart man to me, Jimmy. Jimmy, come over here. I want to show you this car, Jimmy.
He looks like he'd rather answer, what is a woman?
Jimmy, I keep thinking that he's gonna say, Congressman, I call that two truths and a misinformation.
Important in
Congressman.
the context of these.
How about you,
platforms.
Professor? Can you tell me what misinformation is?
I assume it would be saying something was completely untrue.
Say something that's untrue, but with no intent. No intent. Disinformation, this is what all the misinformation experts tell us. Misinformation, saying something that's not accurate. Disinformation, saying something that's not accurate with the intent to mislead, right?
That sounds right to me.
You agree, Mr. Seligman? That's the common definition in the misinformation industry out there?
Yes, my understanding.
Okay, that's the definition. So now, Mr. Flynn, how about this question? When the Biden administration told the American people that the vaccinated couldn't get the virus, was it misinformation or disinformation?
Congressman, again, we were communicating the best medical research that we had at the time on behalf of a group of some of the best doctors in the world in Atlanta and Bethesda.
When the Biden administration told the American people that the virus didn't come from a lab, was that misinformation or disinformation?
Congressman, again, I can't speak to discussions that were had on that topic. It's been a couple of years, but again, generally.
The White House put pressure on us to censor the lab leak theory. This was something the White House cared about, so much so that Facebook was having, the top people at Facebook were having a group discussion on it. So I'm just asking, when they said that, was that misinformation or disinformation?
Congressman, I can't recall the specific
When
example.
the Biden administration said that masks work, was that misinformation or disinformation?
Again, Congressman, we were communicating the best research at the time, but I also believe that that was a discussion that began in the previous administration as well.
How about what Professor Zawicki brought up, Mr. Flaherty, when the White House said there was no such thing as natural immunity, was that misinformation or disinformation?
Again, Congressman, I am not a medical expert, and my job is to communicate on behalf of a team of medical
So
experts.
you weren't a medical expert, but you could suggest to Facebook that they needed to change their algorithm so that the American people would not see stuff from the Daily Wire, they'd only see stuff from the New York Times. You can do that, but you can't tell me if they were guessing or lying when they said something that was absolutely not true.
Well, again, Congressman, my role was as a communicator on behalf of the best information available, and the role of the platforms was to have a set of policies that they enforced on their own. And that, my engagement with them had, no bearing on what they're.
No bearing? No bearing?
Well, Congressman, again.
Third day, who's Clark Humphrey?
Clark Humphrey was the digital director for the
Did you work with her?
Yes, Congressman, I did.
Part of the White House operation in the same area, right? You worked with her?
Congressman, she worked in a similar area.
Yeah, okay. And so when she said on the third day of the Biden administration, wanted to flag the below tweet, wondering if you can get moving on the process for having it removed ASAP. That's not trying to impact what the platforms do. That's not telling the platform what kind of speech can be out there.
Congressman, again, we had the ability to flag whatever we wanted, and the platforms had an ability to say no. I can't speak to whether or not they took any action on the particular.
Well, no, if they said no, the President of the United States says that Facebook's killing people. They obviously felt the pressure. That's why they're having that group text conversation. How about this one? When the Biden administration told the American people the border is secure, was that misinformation or disinformation?
Congressman, again, I'm here to discuss my engagements with social media platforms.
I'm just asking. You were in the Biden administration when these kind of statements were being made. How about this one? When the Biden administration said the Inflation Reduction Act will actually reduce inflation, was that misinformation or disinformation?
Congressman, again, I'm here to discuss my interactions with social media
Let
companies.
me go back to the first question in the last 13 seconds. Any chance you'll answer one question for me? When the Biden administration told the American people that the vaccinated couldn't get the virus, were they guessing or lying?
Congressman, we were communicating on behalf of the best medical research that we had available at the time.
All right.
So these are the people they don't want to censor. They don't want to censor pieces of shit like that guy, but they want to censor people like me and Kim and Steph and Dana and Rick. They want to censor us. They don't want to censor those people. Of course, we all know the biggest liars are the government. The second biggest liars are the corporate media, and the distant third are people at randos on social media. But so when AOC, we have to look. You can't just say something blatantly false. We have to rein you in. Come see us on tour. Be in Tempe, Arizona with